Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday and it's February 25th. And today we are going to be talking about the trip to Emmaus, or the road to Emmaus, or the walk to Emmaus, depending on what your translation says. This is a big block of scripture. And this is it's the really the appearance, the Jesus appearing the first time. This is what this is. To any of the disciples in Luke's gospel. And it's funny that in the first place he appears here is to some more secondary disciples. And that's very interesting. He's not. He did not appear to the women in Luke's gospel first. The women went and told what these two angelic figures had told them, but they did not witness it themselves, did not see Jesus themselves. It's a little different than the other synoptics and John. So with that, let's take a look. We're biting off a big chunk today. It's verses 13 to 35 in the 24th chapter of Luke's gospel. So we're just going to jump right into it. I'm not going to wait for a whole lot of folks to come in. You have to listen to this one as it's recorded here on Facebook and on YouTube if you want, or I'll put a link on LinkedIn also, as I always do. All right, Luke 24, chapter 13 to 35. The walk to Emmaus is what the NRSV calls this. Now, on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place here in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the third day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him." Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. Okay. A lot in here. We could do a long dissertation on this one. So we'll just kind of try to hit the key points. One of the things is in the Greek, this discussion that they're having back and forth with Jesus. It's not it's not just a casual friendly. There's some give and take, and there's some pugilist almost kind of imagery in this about what they're talking here. So there is that element here. The other thing is we have these two fellows. It looks like they're it's often thought that it's a husband and wife. I think it's two men, one Cleopas and one Simon, because back down in 34 they're saying, "And he has appeared to Simon." Well, there's no indication that he's appeared to Simon Peter. This is This is another Simon. There's more than one Simon going on here. Simon's a fairly common name. So these are the two men that he's appeared to. And he's appeared to them on the road, and for whatever reason, they don't recognize him. That's one of those things that we find peculiar. But the interesting thing is they professed to him about what Jesus was, but they had hoped he was. And again, it's another story of people missing what Jesus was about. They're looking for him to be this conquering king, like we've said over and over, all throughout the synoptics, really, and all throughout John as well, throughout the scripture. The disciples are looking for him to come and just make it all right. I mean, physically make it all right, and politically make it all right, and all of that. And that's not what Jesus does. He doesn't make it all right here in this place. It's about the kingdom. Okay, it's about different. It's a different thing. He's a different kind of Messiah. That's the thing. They miss who he was, and I think that's where. And it's interesting. He pulls up alongside him. There's talking, and you have verse 25. Jesus so often says these wonderful things to us. Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are! Wow, and how slow of heart! Geez, Jesus, could you pull a punch or two?" He doesn't do that, does he? Jesus doesn't necessarily do that. To believe, slow of heart to believe all that the prophets had declared. Now, remember, we talked about those two men, declaring that the prophets and Moses, the law and the prophets there, and that's interesting here because he says, then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he's using the prophet Moses and the prophets, the law and the prophets, to show who he is. Interesting, isn't it? So he uses that, and then he interprets to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. He goes. Wouldn't we love to know what exactly he used as an illustration and as supporting documents from the Old Testament, talking about showing the kind of Messiah that he was and is, using scriptural references. It's amazing, and if we look to that metaphor of these two men being Moses and Elijah, I think it really is. There's some meaning to that. There's some impact from that. And I like that. It's useful. Let's put it that way. But as they come near the village, he kind of feigns that he's going to keep going, because that's the culture of hospitality. You didn't assume they were going to be hospitable to you. You allowed them to extend the hospitality, and then you would go, oh no, and then they would extend it again, and then you go, oh okay, and that's just the back and forth of the culture, okay, the cultural of hospitality, which is very important to them at that time. But it's then that they're at the table, and this is really the center part of I think of what this is, putting an exclamation mark on the Last Supper. That's what is going on here, because that's when they're at the table, and when he blesses the bread. Now Jesus is kind of doing a football as the guest. He's taking the bread, and it should have been the head of the household breaking the bread and doing the blessing. But Jesus takes it and he breaks the bread, and it's in the breaking of the bread that they see who he is, that they understand who he is. It's at the table when they're together in community, in fellowship. That's when they really see who Jesus is, and they understand what he's been telling them, and that's when their hearts burn within them. They're saying their hearts were burning with them all the time, but it's that revelation. So I think there's a big exclamation mark about the importance of community meals and eating together, fellowship. And we have to remember that in the early church, it wasn't about, they didn't do communion the way we do with the little tiny wafers in the pre-sealed cups, the way we're doing now for the COVID stuff, the social distancing. It's really sad that we're doing it that way. It's sad enough the way we do it normally, and it's worse yet, but that's neither here nor there. But rather, they sit down physically together and they have meal. Much more like a potluck is really very much more like that. Almost probably exactly like that is what the early meals would have been as far as breaking bread. They sat down together, and it was in that relationship, in that intimacy, that they truly see who Jesus is. And so I think it really is a great bit of scripture. I think it's a great story in helping us to see how we too can see Jesus. We see it in the least expected places, the least expected people. We see glimmers of Jesus. So with that, I'm going to let you go. We could have gone much longer on this. I apologize. This is actually a bit of scripture I've preached on the most here at Woodlawn. So I've actually got a a lot of information on this one. I don't want to overload you, though. Trying to keep these videos right, under 10 minutes if I can anymore. I've been chastised by my bride for going too long. So with that, don't forget, today is Thursday, so that means we're doing communion at 5 to 5:15 on the south side of the church. Come on up. It's going to be nice. So, hey, no excuse. It's, the roads are cleared off and it's beautiful out. And then don't forget, 7 o'clock, I'll post up a song. I'll do a little talk about whatever music I pick out. I haven't picked it yet. And then I'll post that up at 7. All right. So with that, I'm going to let you go. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Have a blessed day. And please, please, please be a blessing to someone today. We'll hopefully see you tonight. Bye-bye.